Welcome, everybody, to another session of Conscious Gatherers. I know we've missed last week. We didn't miss it. We just skipped it. We're on a 2-week cycle now. We're going to be going every 2 weeks, so every other week at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time will be the Conscious Gatherers podcast here on Free Conference Call. And Bev, my co-host, you with me?
Yes, welcome, everybody. This is our 16th episode, Terry.
Wow, 16. That's like a lot.
It's Sweet 16. There you go.
There we go. I'm not sure if I want to go back to that era. There's good points and bad points back to the Sweet 16 era. I'm not sure. But moving forward, we'll have fun and stuff. So I think you had called this episode something pinning the, what was that called?
Connecting the dots.
And that's right, Connecting the Dots.
Connecting the dots.
And I think that's a really good title for tonight's show because I just keep seeing things, the dots being connected. You go over here and you see something that relates to what you heard and read over here, and somebody else on another podcast said this, and all those dots start getting connected and things start making sense. And I think that's where we're going tonight, right?
That's correct.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're going to connect more dots and with what we've experienced, some of the a movie, a documentary that was made that you had mentioned called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind by Dr. Stephen Greer, plus other podcasts or just our own intuition.
Yes. Very interesting stuff going on right now. I think, our show probably will bringing some of the stuff to bear's forefront here that might be coming up in the future, and you might have heard it here first. Again, we don't know. We're not privy to anything special that everybody's not available to. We just happen to be tapped into certain things that other people aren't doing because you might be busy in business or, what you're doing. But we're hearing some interesting things, and that's where connecting the dots comes in. I think this COVID-19, this whole thing is switching the awareness, switching the consciousness of everybody, and we're going to have some exciting things come forward. Sure, there might be some other challenges, but again, it's how you perceive those and how you connect the dots and move forward. So, Bev, do you have something to share with us tonight?
Well, I have quite a few things to share, and I know you do too, Terry. So just going through what Terry and I talked a little bit earlier today, and that's when we came up with the title of today's episode, Connecting the Dots, because of things that are coming to us and what we see. And when you watch a podcast or listen to somebody else, normally, I'd have to say normally, our human minds can only take in so much, and I'm not sure what that percentage is. And then some things will stand out, that what somebody says or what you hear, what you see, and other things just kind of fade. Do you understand what I mean by that, Terry?
Yes, I would correct that and say human brain, because our mind, which is from our Creator, is unlimited.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's correct. Okay, our human brain. And so just be aware of that. Something you may have, for instance, you may read a book, okay, and you've read it maybe 5 times, and you love the story behind it, et cetera, and then you decide, all right, I'm going to read that book. It was so good, I read it 5 times, I'm going to read it again. And you do. Your 6th time, you read it, and you're looking at the story in a whole different way. And so that's what's happening with us today. And as we're moving what we call the ascension phase of our lives, that other things will start coming into view, into our consciousness from our subconscious, superconsciousness, whatever terminology you want to use. So you just be aware of that. things will jump out. Sometimes print on a page will jump out at you, will look bold, and then you blink your eyes a few times, and then it all fades to the same font. But I've had that happen. It's like things will just pop out of a page. So it's and you blink, it's like, am I seeing this right? And you may see other beings, pass you by that some people may call a ghost or an apparition or whatever. But our veils are thinning, and we're starting to recognize and perceive other things that we call in our space. One thing, Terry, you had mentioned is the speed of consciousness as past the speed of light, and we want to get into talking about that. And just a couple things I want to say before you get into that is a couple things that have come to me is from here to there is just a thought away. And so one of the things that we've been talking about since day one is conscious projection. And so really we're getting more into that to understand what all that means. So basically our thoughts combine to make the outside come to life. In fact, the note I sent out today was I ended it by peace internal, peace out. So in other words, when you're peaceful inside, and then that's what you give to the so-called outside world. But Terry, go ahead. I want you to talk about the speed of consciousness. I think you have information to share.
I hadn't really heard that term prior to me watching that video, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It's very difficult to find now. You can rent it from YouTube and stuff like that. I was trying to find the free version. I finally found one and saw it. I had to get through a few of the X-rated pop-ups that would come through. I'd have to delete them, but I did get through. It's about a 2-hour movie, and it's really, if you've seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it's a takeoff on that, and I don't want to spoil it, but everybody should find it, rent it, buy it, whatever you can. It's very, very interesting. But in there, that's where I heard the speed of consciousness, and they referred to, as we here on Earth and our technology advances, we broke the sound barrier and things happened. Right now, all of the marvels and stuff with iPhones and things traveling through, what seems to be nothing is really traveling at the speed of light. But it's too slow for interstellar travel, of which we are going to go to sometime here in the near future. And in fact, the whole thing about the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind is people are already making contact with extraterrestrials, with other consciousness, and it's through traveling consciousness, the speed of consciousness. They're actually having groups that meet and they meditate, and in their consciousness, they're inviting extraterrestrials, other beings, to consciously come to where they are, from wherever they are, and manifest so they can see and communicate. And it's a fantastic video series, and that's where I heard the speed of consciousness. And I think that's the new level we're moving to, that our communications will be moving in the direction of the only way to be able to go interstellar and go to where things are that are light years away. That's why they're called light years, because the speed of light would take so many 100,000s of years or millennia to get there. You can only get there through the speed of consciousness, which can be instantaneous. So that was very, very interesting, and it gave me a whole new perspective on my meditation, on how things can manifest in the physical world, because wherever the object is, you just want to communicate in consciousness and then have it manifest where you are. So that's a whole new realm I'm working on personally to see how that goes. So that's what I had on that subject.
It's interesting. Go ahead. Ed.
I thought you got some reading on that or something.
Well, I've written some things down to better understand this, but even prior to getting there, I do. I have found I can project my consciousness to another planet, to our moon. Sometimes I don't think I'm giving anything away, but this happens with me, where I'll start getting information, or I'm kind of, it's like I don't know, almost like a nagging feeling, so to speak, and I'll say, what's going on in, say, I'm going to make this up because I really don't want to divulge anything here, but say Venus. And so then I'll just sit and meditate, and then I'll project my consciousness to Venus, for instance. And then I'll usually figure out what's going on, or at least I'll have an awareness of something that's going on, even though I don't get the whole picture. So this happens with me. And then I've had other beings come to where it's usually when I'm with a small group, because the energy is that much greater. And so I'll find that beings will come in, and I don't always see them real clearly, but I can communicate, telepathic communication. So they're projecting their consciousness from, for instance, Arcturus, and they'll project their consciousness. And then they'll show me some things about where we're going, about maybe energy devices or things like that. And I'm thinking, I'm not really good at that sort of thing, but anyways, they will share a lot of what they already are using in their physicality on their planet. Does that make sense? So
yes,
this is happening not only with me, it happens with everybody if they listen.
Right. And it's not something new. Our government has been using the speed of consciousness for years and years and years, and especially during the Cold War. It was called remote viewing, and you can look that up on the internet. And what remote viewing is they were taking individuals and they trained them on basically how to meditate or project their consciousness to another place, and for during the Cold War, specifically Russia, and find out what Russia was working on. They would actually project their consciousness into rooms in Russia, into places, and grab secrets that they had, and were able to draw things that were not right there. And I'm sure Russia was doing it the other way around. So it's nothing new. And the government's basically hidden it. It was the CIA, the FBI, they're all involved with it. And that's part of the in the movie that was talking about Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. So what we're talking about is not out in left field. It actually happens, and it's the way that we are going to learn about and communicate with the other beings of other worlds, or even other beings that are on this earth that we don't know about in other dimensions, and it's going to be through the speed of consciousness. And showing, again, that we are not our physical bodies, our physical brain. That's a vehicle that we conveniently have to make it easy to communicate with other conscious agents within this virtual reality that we're all experiencing together. Make sense?
I'm shaking my head, realizing you can't see me shake my head.
No,
well, there is. Yeah, we maybe someday, we're not sure. Just a moment.
Sorry?
Yeah. I wanted to mention on remote viewing, I'm trying to think of this gentleman's name who's quite good at it and used to work for the government. And he has his own segments on Edge of Wonder TV. And some of you listening may be aware of the Edge of Wonder, which started out with Ben and Rob, which they still put out some YouTube videos, but they also have a TV. And there is a gentleman, I'm trying to think of his name, who's very good at remote viewing, and he does teach classes on it. And the basics of it is for a remote viewer, they're given numbers, and they'll put so many people into a classroom, and then whatever comes up may not make sense to them. It may be in numbers, it may be visions, it may be colors, whatever it may be. And then when they put all their findings together after their allotted time is up, then they figure out what it's all about, because they don't know what they're looking at or looking for or anything, and then they figure it out. But there is a very good video on this, again, on Edge of Wonder TV, for those who are interested.
Yeah, and it's something that we come in with at an early age, and it's not developed, and so we think we lose it. It's there, but I remember when I was a youngster, a kid, when I'm going to say before my teens and somewhere after 5 or so, I remember we used to play a game all the time, my mom and I, and she would think of a number or color or something, and it would come to me, and I would say it's 7 or red or whatever it was, and I was always right, and then a teenager year comes and you get involved with your friend and you don't play those games anymore, and you kind of lose the talent. You know what I mean? It's one of those things like exercise. So we all have the ability, and it's all still there. And there are a number of ways to get it back, to practice it. And so, what you were talking about, traveling, and you used Venus, I'm sure you were talking about some of it. That's a remote viewing technique. That's using your consciousness and going somewhere else, because consciousness is not limited, and that's what's the real thing here. The only real thing is our consciousness. And once we learn to communicate with our consciousness with another, literally the universe there's no limit on what we can do or manifest. So that's quite interesting.
Absolutely none. Now, personally, for me, I've seen a lot. Okay, so I'm a very visual person, and so even though life is not necessarily visual, okay, it's beyond. Now, I'm talking about in our physical means. But I'll see something, and I'm not sure if it's the present, the past, or the future, because there really is no time. And it's like, gee, I wish I could see a sign and see who that is, I said there's no signage up, there's no calendar hanging there, and that sort of thing. So, so I'm kind of left like, okay, why did I see that? And why did I, hello? Observe that. So I find it very interesting, and we all have this ability. It's built into ourselves. I mean, that's what we came in, and it's what we're going through on Earth. Is from what we've been told, it's been the absolute most wonderful thing ever. I'm paraphrasing that, because we have this ability built in. So we're a combination of a lot of different nations, or a lot of different planetary systems, that sort of thing, and we're absolutely amazing. So
you hit that on the head. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But one thing, life never ceases to be. We're always life cannot not be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One thing, I was looking at some things before our podcast today, and one thing was I was reading about, because I'm starting to hear this bannered about some, and that's the words, the House of Cards. And so I pulled this from some of my writings. It says the House of Cards becomes a master. Our civilizations are built, which means our civilizations are built upon certain belief systems. So when those belief systems are shattered, then civilizations fall to be rebuilt. And I feel that's what's going on right now. A lot of our belief systems are being shattered, and to understand that we have this ability to, this telepathic ability for within, just the earth and beyond, doesn't matter.
Right. One of the, I think, one of the institutions that's going to be shattered is the religious institutions. And I think what's going to happen is that science and religion are going to come closer together, because science can prove certain things that the dogmas of religion have just stuck to. And they're really not talking about different things, but to their, each sect has taken a part of truth and put it to benefit them and promote their particular sect or religious belief systems. And that's all going to get shattered. I think that's one of the ones that will come down.
Well, physics as we know it, I'm going to call it third-dimensional physics. It's not the physics. It's not the same physics for other dimensions. That's why we cannot see other dimensions. And so, it's that whole thing. How can we travel faster than the speed of light? Consciousness, again, instantaneous. We have talked about, we've built matrices, and we've lived those lives in various matrix systems. And usually for our biological cells, but actually our consciousness is beyond form.
Right. I think also in the movie, they said, the question came up, how many minds are there in the universe? And the answer was one. There's one mind in the universe, and we are all part of it and connected. And that's why we can communicate through consciousness, because we are all communicating as one, and there is a creator. The creator is the creator consciousness, and so that's going to be very interesting when that whole thing comes about. They're going to be scrambling. All the ancient religious texts all have the truth in them, but they've been skewed in a particular way for an advantage point for that particular sect, and interpreted in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. But all of them have the truth in them. I don't want to get so much into religion here. People don't say I'm a heretic, but whatever. I am what I am.
Well, I think we have some people on with us, and I would love to hear from those of you that are listening live. If you want to unmute yourself, please do, and ask a question, make a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, you probably came in unmuted, so in case you are muted, you can hit *6. That'll either mute you or unmute you, and when you do it, it'll tell you what way you went, so you can reverse it if you need to. But yes, please come in and ask a question of either of us. I think someone just went off.
Yeah, I think they left. That's okay.
We scared them.
Yes, we may have. We may have.
Whatever. All right. Well,
all right.
Just to reiterate, we are back on every other week, okay, at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So let me pull, today's the 19th. So we'll be back on June the 2nd. That'll be our next show at 7 o'clock. And we're going to stay here for a while. It's convenient. It's simple. It's easy to transcribe and record the call and get it back out in email. Please share the links with people. Have them go in. Have people, if they want to come in and listen live and ask questions, we welcome those. So, Bev, any final words before we sign off?
Well, I would like to. This is what I received from Sananda, and I thought it was pretty good. So it's just a few sentences, and I would like to repeat those. And Sananda is the one I call the cosmic name or energy that is part of the Yeshua ben Joseph is part of that family, or Jesus, okay? So what Sananda shared with me many years ago. He said, you are your maker, you are divine, you are one of many, yet you are one. Be the instrument you have incarnated for, the life that brings you into contact with you, capital Y-O-U. All knowingness shall return to you when your receptors are open. And that's it. So, we're opening our receptors to understand who and what we truly are.
Yes. And if you can, a reminder, go find Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And that is a movie, 2 hours. I know you can rent it from Apple and all that. If you search it on the internet, you'll find it. I think it's less than $4 to rent and less than, I think, $13 to buy if you want to have it. But it's 2 hours long, and it's well worth it, to share it with people. So until our next call, I want to wish you all the best. Stay positive, and you can always get in touch with us if you want with Bev or myself by calling 864-999-3008. That's a 24-hour message. You'll leave your number and who you want to speak to, and we will call you back. Okay, Bev,
right.
Take
and
care.
You can,
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to leave my email address for you, too. If you do have a question for either me or Terry, you can reach us through Beverly, which is my name, BEVERLYT01@gmail.com.
All right, very good. So everybody, take care, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night.
All right, good night.